Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, yet still feel invisible, drained, or not enough? What if I told you that the secret to true magnetism isn't about trying harder, but about letting go? In a world full of noise, emotional reactions, and constant approval seeking, there's a quiet strength in being calm and detached. Today, we'll explore how mastering your emotions and choosing not to react can make you irresistibly attractive. Stay with me, because once you discover this power, everything changes. Think about the last time you walked into a room and noticed someone who just commanded attention without doing anything. No loud introduction, no desperate attempt to prove themselves, yet their presence was undeniable. It's like they didn't have to try to be seen. They just were. Have you ever wondered why? Here's the truth. Real magnetism doesn't come from trying harder, speaking louder, or doing more. It comes from being still, from not reacting to every little thing that pulls at you. In today's world, where everyone's always reacting, whether it's to criticism, success, or conflict, those who can stay calm, poised, and in control of their emotions are the ones who truly stand out. And that calmness, that non-reactivity, is what makes them magnetic. Non-reactivity is the ultimate form of strength, and this is exactly what Stoicism teaches us. Stoics believe in mastering your emotions and thoughts so that they don't control you. Imagine for a second, what would happen if you stopped reacting to everything? If you didn't let every criticism, every challenge, every unexpected event trigger an emotional response? What if you were able to pause, observe, and choose your response, rather than being swept away by external forces? That's true power. We've all been in situations where someone tries to provoke us, push our buttons, or challenge our beliefs. Maybe it's a heated argument with a friend or a tense moment in a meeting at work. What's your first instinct? To react, right? To defend yourself, to prove your point, or to fight back. But what if I told you that in those moments the real power is in not reacting? Think about it for a moment. When you react impulsively, you're giving away your power. You're letting the situation dictate your emotions. You're allowing someone else to pull you into their emotional chaos. But when you don't react, when you choose to remain calm, you take back that control. You stay centered, grounded, and clear-minded no matter what's happening around you. That's when you become magnetic. That's when people start to notice you, not because you're trying to stand out, but because your calm and composed energy naturally draws them in. This idea of non-reactivity is not about being emotionless or indifferent. It's about mastering your emotions so that you can choose your response, not be at the mercy of it. It's about creating a space between what happens and how you react to it. And in that space lies the power to choose wisely, to stay aligned with your true self, and to stay true to your values, regardless of the noise around you. Non-reactivity also means not being pulled into emotional drama or conflict. It's easy to get sucked into arguments, to feel the need to defend yourself, or to jump into a situation just because someone is challenging you. But when you learn to pause and observe before responding, you begin to see things more clearly. You realize that not everything requires a reaction, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. This doesn't mean you never speak up or take action when needed. On the contrary, non-reactivity gives you the power to choose when and how to respond. It's about intentionality, choosing to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. And when you do this, people begin to see you differently. You stop being seen as someone who's always on the defensive or trying to prove something. You start to be seen as someone who's in control, who knows themselves, and who doesn't need to justify their worth to anyone. Let's talk about the kind of presence this creates. Some people walk into a room and instantly everyone is drawn to them. But it's not because they're the loudest or the most animated. It's because their presence exudes calmness, confidence, and certainty. They don't need to dominate the conversation or be the center of attention. Their stillness speaks louder than any words ever could. It's the strength of knowing who you are and being completely unshaken by external circumstances. In a world where people are constantly reacting to the next social media notification, the next piece of gossip, or the next drama, the person who remains calm and grounded becomes a beacon of strength. Think about it. When everyone around you is frantically reacting, the one who stays still, who takes their time to think before speaking or acting, becomes a rare and magnetic presence. In a sea of chaos, calmness stands out. Now let's look at a real-life example of this in action. Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger. When both engines of his plane failed mid-air, Sully didn't panic. He didn't react impulsively, even though the situation was life-threatening. Instead, he stayed calm, assessed the situation, and made a split-second decision to land the plane on the Hudson River, saving the lives of all 155 people aboard. What Sully did wasn't some miraculous feat. It was the result of decades of training himself to remain calm under pressure. It was the practice of non-reactivity. He didn't let fear or panic control him. He mastered his emotions, and in doing so, saved lives. This is the kind of strength that non-reactivity can bring. It's not about avoiding your emotions or pretending you don't feel anything. It's about not allowing those emotions to control you. It's about being in a position where you can choose your response, even in the most stressful situations. And when you do that, you gain a level of inner strength that others can't help but be drawn to. And here's the interesting part. Most of the time, we don't even realize how much we're reacting. Have you ever been in the middle of an argument, and instead of pausing to think, you just fired back with an emotional response? Maybe you said something you didn't mean or escalated the situation. But what if you had just stopped for a moment, taken a breath, and chosen not to react? In that moment, you would have preserved your energy, avoided unnecessary conflict, and maintained control over the situation. The beauty of non-reactivity is that it allows you to see things clearly. It gives you the space to assess a situation without being clouded by emotion. And when you choose not to react, you don't just preserve your own energy, you also avoid handing over control to someone else. By not reacting, you maintain your power, and that makes you even more magnetic. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." What he meant is that when you react to everything, you scatter yourself in all directions. Each reaction weakens you, leaving you more vulnerable to the whims of external circumstances. But when you remain still, when you stay centered and grounded, you become stronger, you become unshakable, your silence becomes your strength, and that strength becomes magnetic. So, next time you find yourself in a situation where you feel triggered or compelled to react, try this. Pause for just 3 seconds. Don't speak. Don't roll your eyes. Don't let your emotions take the wheel. Just breathe, sit with the feeling, and notice where your impulse wants to go. Then choose. Choose what's worth saying or nothing at all. That 3-second pause is a superpower. It gives you the space to remain in control, to respond with intention, and to project an energy that draws people in. This is the essence of non-reactivity. It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about being the calm center in the storm. It's about letting the world spin around you while you remain solid, grounded, and in control. And when you master this, you'll notice that you don't have to chase attention. You don't have to try to stand out. People will be drawn to you naturally because your presence is magnetic. Let's explore this further, because once you begin mastering non-reactivity, something amazing happens. You start to see others differently. You begin to understand the emotions driving their behavior. You start to recognize that people often react out of fear, insecurity, or a need for validation. And when you stop reacting to them, you start to understand them better. you gain deeper insight into what's truly happening beneath the surface. The more you practice non-reactivity, the more power you have over your own energy and the more magnetic you become. Because the truth is, magnetism doesn't come from doing more, it comes from being more. It comes from owning your calm, your strength, and your ability to choose your response, regardless of the external chaos around you, and that's where the real power lies. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll dive deeper into how you can continue to develop this inner strength and unlock even more of your magnetic potential. Now that we've explored the power of non-reactivity and the incredible strength that comes from staying calm in the face of chaos, let's bring this principle to life with a real-world example. An example that showcases non-reactivity not just as a choice, but as the difference between life and death. Let me take you back to January 15, 2009, a moment that could have ended in disaster, but instead became a testament to the power of calmness under pressure. This was the day Captain Chesley "Sully" Sullenberger and his crew were flying US Airways Flight 1549 out of LaGuardia Airport in New York. The flight took off without incident, but just a few minutes into the journey, disaster struck. Both engines failed after striking a flock of birds. In an instant, the aircraft was rendered powerless, and Sully found himself facing a decision that most pilots could never dream of. Imagine that moment. You're up in the sky, thousands of feet above the ground, with no engines, no backup, and a plane full of passengers. Your heart races, your adrenaline spikes, and panic threatens to take over. The impulse to react emotionally to panic is immediate, and in most situations, it's completely understandable. But Sully didn't panic. He didn't react impulsively to the situation in front of him. He stayed calm. And in that calmness, he found the strength to save the lives of everyone aboard that flight. When Sully realized the severity of the situation, there was no room for panic. He had only moments to make a life or death decision. The pressure was overwhelming. The situation was terrifying. But instead of reacting emotionally, Sully did exactly what Stoics teach. He paused. He didn't immediately give in to fear or stress. Instead, he took a deep breath and assessed the situation logically and calmly. He calculated the best course of action, something that many pilots would never have been able to do under that kind of pressure. He knew that landing the plane at either of the two nearby airports wasn't possible. They wouldn't make it. He knew the Hudson River, though unconventional, was the safest place to attempt an emergency landing. With precision and control, Sully made the decision to glide the plane over the city and make a safe, controlled landing in the Hudson River. And he did it, without a single life lost. Now, I want you to pause and think about that moment. No one could blame Sully if he had reacted in fear. No one would have faulted him for panicking. But instead, Sully's training in calmness, his ability to resist the impulse to react emotionally, made the difference between life and death. His response wasn't born from luck. It was the result of years of practice, of training himself to remain calm under pressure. And this is exactly the kind of non-reactivity we're talking about. This is not a concept that comes easily. It's something that takes practice, something that you build over time. Sully didn't make the right decision in that moment because he was lucky. He did it because he was trained to stay calm in the face of chaos. His years of experience had conditioned him to control his emotions and think logically, even in the most life-threatening circumstances. This is the kind of strength that Stoicism teaches. The Stoics believe that we can't control the events that happen to us, but we can control how we respond to them. Sully couldn't control the fact that both engines failed in mid-air, but he could control his response. He could choose to panic, or he could choose to remain calm, think logically, and act decisively. He chose the latter, and it saved the lives of everyone on board. His ability to control his emotions and stay focused in a moment of crisis wasn't just impressive, it was heroic. This is a key lesson in non-reactivity. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't feel fear, stress, or anger. It's about being able to pause, to take a step back, and to choose your response rather than letting your emotions control you. And when you do this, you regain control over the situation. You don't let chaos or fear dictate your actions. You become the calm center in the storm, and in doing so, you not only maintain your power, but you also inspire others to remain calm as well. Now let's bring this back to your life. While you may not be facing an emergency landing on the Hudson River, we all have moments where we feel the pressure, the stress, the emotional pull of a situation. Maybe it's a confrontation at work, a heated discussion with a loved one, or a challenging situation that requires a decision. In those moments, your instinct may be to react, to defend yourself, or to lash out. But what if you could learn to pause? What if, instead of reacting emotionally, you took a deep breath, calmed your mind, and chose your response? This is the power of non-reactivity. The more you practice staying calm in those small moments, the more you'll develop the ability to remain calm in the bigger moments. And in doing so, you'll cultivate a strength that others will naturally be drawn to. People are not drawn to those who react impulsively to everything. They are drawn to those who remain calm, grounded, and in control. When you can choose your response, when you can stay centered no matter what life throws at you, you become magnetic. This isn't just about personal strength, it's about leadership. Think about Sully again. He wasn't just thinking about his own safety when he made that decision. He was thinking about everyone on that plane. His calmness not only saved lives, it inspired confidence in the passengers and the crew. They trusted him because he remained steady in the face of chaos. And in your own life, when you can remain calm and controlled in stressful situations, you inspire the same trust and confidence in others. So what can you take from Sully's story and apply to your own life? It's about cultivating the ability to pause before reacting. It's about practicing stillness and emotional control every single day, in both the small and big moments. Whether it's in a disagreement, a high-pressure situation at work, or a personal challenge, the more you learn to stay calm and deliberate in your responses, the more magnetic you'll become. And just like Sully, you'll find that in moments of crisis, your calmness won't just help you, it'll help everyone around you. As we move forward, let's explore how you can continue to develop this inner strength, this ability to remain detached and non-reactive, and unlock even more of your personal power. Because once you learn to stay calm in any situation, something incredible happens. You stop reacting and you start leading both your life and the lives of those around you. As we continue on this journey through non-reactivity, there's another powerful tool that comes with mastering your emotions and remaining calm in stressful situations: silence. Now, when you think of silence, what comes to mind? Is it the absence of noise? The absence of words? Or maybe, do you think of silence as something uncomfortable, something that makes you feel exposed or vulnerable? In today's world, we're constantly surrounded by noise, social media, news, conversations, constant demands for our attention. We've come to believe that the louder we are, the more we are seen. But here's the truth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not emptiness. It's strength. And once you realize the power that silence holds, you'll begin to see how it's one of the most magnetic forces you can wield. You see, silence is often misunderstood. In a world that's obsessed with constant communication, talking and arguing, silence stands out as a rare and powerful presence. Think about it. When was the last time you walked into a room and someone was so still, so composed that you couldn't help but be drawn to them? It wasn't their words that made you notice them, it was their stillness. That quiet confidence, that ability to be present without needing to fill the silence with noise, is what truly commands attention. There's a profound strength that comes with silence. It's a power that doesn't need to be explained. Silence allows you to hold your space, to ground yourself, and to command the room, not with force, but with your presence. It's what makes you magnetic. Now let me ask you this. How often do you feel the need to fill the silence? To jump in and speak your mind? To defend your position? To make sure you're heard? Most of us are conditioned to believe that speaking more will make us more visible, more validated, more important. But here's where Stoicism comes in. True power doesn't come from being heard at every moment. It comes from knowing when not to speak. There's a saying that goes, "Silence is the loudest voice in the room," and it's true. When you choose silence intentionally, when you withhold your words not because you have nothing to say, but because you know that not speaking is the most powerful choice, you become magnetic. You shift the energy in the room. You command respect and attention without saying a word. Think about some of the most magnetic people you've encountered in your life. The ones who don't need to dominate the conversation, the ones who don't need to fill every awkward silence with their opinions or ideas, the ones who stand quietly in the corner, observing, listening, with a calm, grounded presence. These are the people who make the biggest impact. They don't need to be loud to be noticed. They're noticed because they know the value of silence. This is exactly the kind of presence that non-reactivity and silence together can create. When you stop reacting to everything around you, when you stop feeling the need to fill every space with noise or words, you become someone who commands presence. You become someone who observes the world instead of being swept away by it. And this is a rare quality that people are drawn to. One of the greatest examples of the power of silence can be found in the way certain public figures handle the media. Think about someone like Keanu Reeves. He's known for his calm, unassuming nature. He's not the type to get caught up in drama or to seek out attention. Instead, he quietly carries himself with an undeniable presence. He speaks less, but when he does, his words have weight. In a world full of loud personalities, Keanu's silence is like a magnet. It draws people in because it's so rare and so powerful. Another example can be found in politics with figures like Barack Obama. Now, Obama was often criticized for being too quiet or passive when dealing with the media and political opponents. But what many didn't realize was that this quiet approach was a deliberate strategy. He wasn't avoiding conflict or retreating into silence because of fear. He was using silence as a tool of control. He understood that by not reacting to every provocation, he could maintain his composure, his focus, and his strength. In a world where everyone else was scrambling to be heard, Obama's quiet presence made people listen even more intently. And this, my friends, is the power of silence. It's not about avoiding the world or hiding from conflict. It's about choosing to step back from the noise and reacting only when it truly matters. When you master silence, you don't lose anything. You gain everything. You gain clarity, you gain control, and most importantly, you gain the respect and attention of those around you. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but if I'm always silent, won't I just fade into the background? Won't I be ignored? The answer is no, quite the opposite. In fact, when you choose silence, you become a mystery, and mystery is irresistible. People are drawn to what they can't fully understand, to what they can't completely figure out. When you speak less, when you share only what's necessary and leave the rest unsaid, you create an aura of intrigue. People start to wonder, what are they thinking? What do they know that I don't? And in this curiosity, you become magnetic. It's the kind of attraction that doesn't require any performance, any show, any act. It's the attraction that comes from being you, from standing still in the storm, calm and unshaken. This doesn't mean that silence is always the answer. Of course, there are times when speaking up, when taking action is necessary. But when you've cultivated the power of silence, you'll know when it's time to speak and when it's time to remain still. You'll know that speaking isn't about filling the silence, it's about adding value, making an impact, and knowing that your words carry weight. Silence also allows you to listen, truly listen, to those around you. When you're not busy talking or reacting, you can start observing what's really going on beneath the surface. You'll start hearing the unspoken words, understanding people's fears, desires, and intentions. And with this understanding comes a deeper connection, a deeper influence, and a deeper presence. Now let's tie this back to non-reactivity. As we've seen with the example of Captain Sully and the power of silence in public figures, both of these qualities are closely linked. The more you practice non-reactivity, the more you will develop an appreciation for the power of silence. And once you combine the two, mastering your emotions and choosing silence, you will become an unstoppable force. You will no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. You won't need to defend your worth or fill the room with your presence. You will be magnetic because your calm, grounded, and silent strength will speak louder than any words ever could. So as we move forward, I want to challenge you. In your next conversation, when someone challenges you, when someone pushes your buttons, try this. Pause. Don't react. Just breathe. Let the silence hang in the air. See how the situation shifts. See how your power, your presence, your magnetism changes. And when you master the power of silence, you'll unlock a deeper level of influence and attraction than you've ever known before. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll dive even deeper into how you can harness this power and build a life where silence isn't just an absence, it's a presence, and it's magnetic. Let's continue. Now, let's talk about something that is at the heart of both non-reactivity and silence: emotional control. If you've been following along so far, you've already begun to understand that true strength doesn't come from reacting to every situation, from filling every silence, or from constantly trying to prove yourself. True power comes from mastering your emotions, learning how to control them instead of letting them control you. In today's world, we're constantly bombarded by emotional triggers. Think about the last time you felt anger, frustration, anxiety, or even fear. Whether it was a situation at work, an argument with a friend, or the stress of everyday life, those emotions can feel overwhelming. It's easy to react impulsively when we're in the grip of powerful emotions. We shout, we argue, we act without thinking, and we can sometimes make the situation worse. But here's the truth: when we give in to those emotional impulses, we lose control. And in losing control, we lose our power. Emotional control is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending that you don't have emotions. Far from it. Emotional control is about acknowledging your feelings, understanding where they come from, and choosing how to respond. It's about creating a space between the emotion and your reaction. And in that space, you find the power to make a conscious decision, to act with purpose and clarity, instead of being swept away by whatever emotions arise. This is where Stoicism offers invaluable wisdom. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, taught that we cannot always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Think about that for a moment. We cannot always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. That's the core of emotional control. It's the realization that while we cannot always control external circumstances, we always have the power to control our internal state. So how do you begin to take control of your emotions? First, it starts with awareness. You have to be aware of your feelings as they arise. And let me tell you something, awareness is the first step toward transformation. How many times have you been in a heated moment and only realized afterward how much you allowed your emotions to take over? You've probably thought, if only I had paused before reacting, I could have handled that better. The truth is, emotional reactions are often instant, but when you start practicing emotional control, you give yourself the gift of space. Space to observe, space to reflect, and space to respond from a place of clarity, not impulse. One of the most powerful exercises you can practice is the pause. You've already learned about the power of pausing before reacting to a situation. Now let's take it a step further. When you feel yourself starting to get emotionally triggered, pause. Don't react immediately. Take a deep breath. In those few seconds, you're not just buying time, you're regaining control. That's the space where power lies. In that moment, you can decide to act thoughtfully instead of reacting blindly. This may sound simple, but it's incredibly effective. Imagine you're in an argument. The other person says something that pushes your buttons. Your first instinct might be to lash out, to defend yourself, or to prove your point. But instead of jumping in with both feet, you pause, you breathe. And in that moment, you choose how to respond. You might choose not to respond at all. You might choose to stay calm and listen. You might choose to speak, but with intention and control. Whatever you choose, it will be a response, not a reaction. And that response will carry much more power because it's deliberate. This kind of emotional control doesn't just make you more effective in conversations, it makes you more effective in life. When you're in control of your emotions, you don't get swept away by the highs and lows of the day-to-day. You don't get caught up in the drama. Instead, you remain grounded, steady, and focused. You start making decisions from a place of strength and clarity, not from fear or impulse. This is where your true power begins to emerge. Power isn't about being the loudest in the room or forcing your way to the top. Power is about remaining composed in the face of chaos. It's about not letting the world dictate your emotions. It's about standing firm in your own beliefs, your own values, and your own strength, regardless of what's happening around you. And when you do that, you become a force to be reckoned with. Let's look at an example of this in action. Think of someone you admire, someone who exudes power and presence without ever having to shout about it. Maybe it's a leader, a mentor, or even a public figure who carries themselves with calm confidence. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people aren't the ones who are constantly reacting to every challenge? No, they are the ones who respond with calmness, with wisdom, and with intention. They know how to control their emotions and use them to their advantage. And that, my friends, is the path to true power. You might be wondering, how do I get there? How do I start practicing emotional control in my everyday life? Well, let me tell you, it's a process. It takes time, practice, and patience. But here are a few practical steps you can start with today. 1. Pause before you react. The next time something triggers you, take a deep breath, count to 3. Don't let your emotions control you. In those few seconds, remind yourself that you have the power to choose how to respond. 2. Observe your emotions. When you feel anger, frustration, or anxiety, don't push it away. Acknowledge it. Ask yourself, where is this emotion coming from? Why do I feel this way? The more you understand your emotions, the less they will control you. 3. Shift your perspective. Remember that you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. When you change your perspective from "I need to react" to "I get to choose how I respond," everything shifts. 4. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you stay present in the moment and reduces impulsive reactions. By practicing mindfulness, you train yourself to be more aware of your thoughts and emotions, and in doing so, you take control of them. 5. Embrace the discomfort. When you feel the urge to react, sit with the discomfort. It's in those moments of discomfort that your power is born. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't rush to defend yourself. Just sit, breathe, and choose your response. The more you practice emotional control, the more you will notice the difference it makes in your life. You'll become someone who doesn't react impulsively, but who chooses how to respond from a place of power. You'll stop being controlled by your emotions and start controlling them. As we move into the next section, we're going to explore how emotional control and non-reactivity create an aura of mystery and unpredictability around you. When you're no longer reacting to every situation, people begin to see you differently. They see someone who is calm, grounded, and in control. Someone who isn't easily swayed by external forces. That's when you become truly magnetic, and I'm excited to show you how to cultivate that next level of power. Stay with me. Now, let's dive into a concept that ties everything together: detachment. We've discussed how non-reactivity, silence, and emotional control all work together to create a magnetic presence. But there's one more element that amplifies your power to an entirely new level: detachment. And I want to make something clear right away. Detachment is not coldness. It's not indifference or emotional avoidance. It's not about shutting people out or distancing yourself from life. Detachment, when practiced correctly, is a powerful tool for living a life of strength, purpose, and clarity. In a world where everyone is constantly seeking validation, approval, and emotional connection, detachment might seem counterintuitive. We're taught that to be loved, accepted, and respected, we need to be deeply involved in everything, be it relationships, work, or the opinions of others. But here's the truth. When you detach from the need for external validation, you gain true freedom, and that freedom is the foundation of inner strength. Let's break this down. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you choose not to let the external world control your inner state. It's about being able to let go of things, people, and circumstances that no longer serve your highest good. When you detach from the need to be constantly validated, to constantly prove your worth to others, you are no longer tethered to their opinions. You stop living your life based on what others think and start living based on your own values, your own purpose. This kind of detachment is at the core of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics understood that the only thing we can truly control in life is our own response. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the essence of detachment. It's not about being unaffected by the world around you, it's about being in control of how you respond to it. When you detach from the need to react to every external influence, you start to live with purpose and intentionality, not out of emotional compulsion. Imagine for a moment if you could let go of the constant pressure to impress others. What would that feel like? If you no longer felt the need to explain yourself, to prove your worth, to chase after approval, how much freer would you be? That's the power of detachment. When you stop seeking validation from the outside world, you free yourself from the chains of expectation and start living from a place of inner validation. Detachment also plays a key role in relationships. In our personal lives, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation from others. We want our friends, family, and romantic partners to approve of us, to tell us we're doing well, to constantly reinforce our self-worth. But here's the thing. When you detach from the need for that validation, you create space for deeper, more meaningful connections. You're no longer dependent on someone else's approval to feel good about yourself. Instead, you can connect with others on a much more authentic level because you're no longer afraid of rejection or criticism. You can love without attachment, without the need to control or manipulate. In relationships, detachment doesn't mean withdrawing or being distant. It means being secure in who you are so you don't need to cling to others for validation. It means being able to walk away from toxic situations, to say no when necessary, and to protect your peace without guilt. Imagine how powerful it would feel to set boundaries, to say no without feeling bad, to protect your inner peace and self-worth from the opinions of others. This is the strength of detachment. It allows you to create relationships that are based on mutual respect and love, not dependence or emotional need. But detachment doesn't just apply to relationships, it applies to your entire life. Think about the things that drain your energy or pull you away from your purpose. It could be toxic environments, toxic work situations, or even toxic social media. Detachment allows you to let go of these influences without feeling guilty. It gives you the strength to say, "This isn't serving me anymore, and I'm walking away from it." By detaching from the things that no longer align with your values, you make room for new opportunities, new relationships, and new experiences that are in harmony with who you're becoming. Let's use another example to illustrate the power of detachment. Consider the story of someone like David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL and ultra-endurance athlete who became famous for his mental toughness and ability to push through physical pain and emotional struggle. Goggins' success doesn't come from seeking validation or recognition. He doesn't rely on applause or social approval to keep going. Instead, his strength comes from an inner resolve, a detachment from the need to be seen or celebrated. He trains in silence, he pushes through challenges with no external motivation, and he does it all from a place of inner clarity and strength. His detachment is what allows him to endure the unimaginable and come out stronger on the other side. Detachment is what allows you to stay focused, driven, and committed to your goals, even when the world around you is trying to distract you. The less you seek validation from the outside world, the more you can channel your energy into what truly matters, your own growth, your own purpose, and your own vision for your life. Now, let's talk about the freedom that comes with detachment. Imagine waking up every day knowing that you don't need to prove anything to anyone, that you don't need anyone's approval to feel worthy or to feel confident. That's the freedom of detachment. You stop being ruled by the opinions of others, you stop being weighed down by the need for constant validation, and you start living from a place of self-assurance. You trust yourself, you trust your path, and you know that your worth is not defined by the opinions or actions of anyone else. This inner freedom is what makes you unstoppable. It allows you to pursue your dreams, set your own boundaries, and live your life with clarity and confidence. When you detach from external approval, you reclaim your power. You no longer have to chase after things, people, or experiences to feel validated. You're already enough. And when you truly embrace this truth, the world starts to respond to you in a completely different way. As we move into the next section, I want you to reflect on your own life. What are the things or people you're still attached to that are draining your energy or pulling you away from your true path? What are the areas of your life where you still seek validation or approval from others? The moment you start to detach from these external influences, you'll begin to notice a shift. You'll feel lighter, freer, and more powerful because you've reclaimed your energy and your purpose, and that's just the beginning. Detachment isn't just about letting go, it's about creating space for something better. So, stay with me, because in the next section, we'll dive into the mystery that detachment brings and how it makes you irresistibly magnetic in ways you never imagined. Let's continue this journey. Now that we've explored the power of emotional control, non-reactivity, and detachment, we arrive at perhaps one of the most underrated yet incredibly powerful tools in our arsenal: silence. In a world that is constantly buzzing, where everyone feels the need to be heard and validated, silence stands as the ultimate form of control. And the beauty of silence is this: it doesn't just make you a passive observer, it makes you the master of the situation. You might be thinking, how is silence powerful? After all, doesn't silence mean being passive? Doesn't it mean doing nothing? The truth is, silence is far from passive. It is an active decision, a conscious choice that creates a profound impact both on those around you and on your own sense of self-control. Silence, when practiced intentionally, is the ultimate form of control because it doesn't require external validation and it doesn't depend on others to make you feel important. The loudest people in the room often crave attention, desperately seeking approval or validation. They want to be seen, to be heard, and to be noticed. But the ones who understand the power of silence, they don't need any of that. They know that true power doesn't come from noise, it comes from stillness. When you choose silence, you're in control. You decide when to speak and when to remain silent. You no longer feel the need to fill every pause with words or defend every point you make. In those quiet moments, you establish your presence. It's not about what you say, but how you say it. Or in this case, how you choose not to say anything at all. And that's where the magic happens. Silence commands attention because it forces people to lean in, to wonder, to be curious about what you are thinking. Silence is not weakness, it's strength. And here's why. When you're able to stay quiet in a situation where others might be reacting emotionally or impulsively, you instantly become a figure of control. You aren't swayed by the chaos around you. You don't need to argue, explain, or justify. You are simply present. Your presence alone becomes magnetic. People around you start to notice that when you speak, it's not just noise. Every word you say carries weight, and every moment of silence is a moment of power. In fact, silence allows you to observe, and observing, truly observing, makes you more powerful than someone who is constantly speaking. When you stay silent, you get to watch, listen, and truly understand what's happening around you. In this space, you can see the intentions behind people's words, you can grasp the subtle dynamics at play, and you can make more informed decisions. You become the silent observer who sees things for what they truly are, while others, lost in the noise, miss the subtleties. Here's a real-world example. Think about a heated debate or a tense conversation. Often, the person who jumps in to defend their point of view, who speaks the loudest and the fastest, ends up losing the respect of others, even if they're right. The more someone defends themselves with words, the more they inadvertently reveal their insecurity, their need to prove something. But then there's the person who remains silent, who doesn't rush to respond, but instead takes a deep breath and waits. In those moments of silence, they radiate calm, strength, and control. And when they finally speak, their words carry far more weight because they've shown restraint. They haven't been swept up by the emotional current. They've held their ground. This is the power of silence. It's a choice, and it's a form of control that doesn't rely on external validation. It's about standing in your own power and letting the situation unfold without forcing your own agenda. And while it might seem counterintuitive in a world that celebrates constant talking, silence is a rare and magnetic quality that people respect. Silence doesn't seek attention. It commands it. Now let's think about this in the context of everyday life. How often do you find yourself speaking just to fill an uncomfortable silence? How often do you feel the urge to explain yourself, to justify your actions, or to defend your beliefs? We've all been there, feeling the need to be heard, to be validated, to be understood. But the truth is, when you give in to that urge, you lose control. You allow your emotions or the pressure of the moment to dictate your actions. But what if instead you paused? What if, instead of rushing to respond, you chose silence? In that moment, you take back control. You don't let external forces dictate your reaction. You create space for clarity, for thought, and for a response that comes from a place of true intention, not emotion. And in that space, you become stronger. You become more magnetic. Your presence becomes undeniable because you're not rushing to fill the silence with words. You've mastered it. And that mastery speaks volumes. Let me take this a step further. Think about the most compelling leaders you know, whether they're public figures, business leaders, or even those quiet individuals who lead with integrity and calmness. These people don't feel the need to prove themselves every time they speak. They don't chase the spotlight. Instead, their strength is in their silence. They understand that the most powerful moments aren't the ones where you dominate the conversation or force your opinions on others. The most powerful moments are when you step back, observe, and then speak with purpose. This type of leadership, this type of strength, comes from silence. And when you practice this, you'll find that others begin to respect you more. They'll look to you for guidance, for direction, because they know you're not reacting out of impulse. They know that when you speak, it matters. But silence isn't just about control in social situations. It's also about controlling your inner world. Think about the constant chatter in your mind. Thoughts, worries, doubts. Our minds are always racing, trying to make sense of everything around us. But when you practice silence, both outwardly and inwardly, you begin to create space for peace. You allow yourself to simply be. And in that stillness, you access a deeper level of clarity, focus, and strength. That's the power of silence. It's not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of control. It's the control to choose when to speak, when to listen, and when to let the silence do the talking. And once you begin to understand this, you'll find that your life becomes far more intentional, more purposeful, and far more magnetic. Now, as we look ahead, think about how you can apply the power of silence in your own life. Where can you start to hold back, to allow the silence to speak for you? In your conversations, your relationships, your career, where can you choose silence instead of reaction? When you start mastering silence, you unlock a new dimension of personal power, one that draws people to you, one that commands respect, and one that allows you to remain centered no matter what chaos surrounds you. And in the next section, we'll explore how this ability to stay silent, to hold back, adds a layer of mystery and unpredictability that makes you truly irresistible. Stay with me, because we're about to go deeper. We've now come full circle on a journey that's all about mastering the powerful tools that allow you to live a life of true strength, clarity, and magnetism. From emotional control to the transformative power of silence and detachment, we've explored how you can create a magnetic presence that doesn't rely on external validation or reaction. You've seen how non-reactivity, silence, and emotional control can turn you into someone who stands apart from the crowd, not because you're shouting the loudest, but because your presence is calm, strong, and grounded. But here's the final takeaway I want you to remember. True power doesn't come from external sources, it comes from within. When you begin to practice non-reactivity, silence, emotional control, and detachment, you start to tap into an inner well of strength that no one can take from you. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove anything, doesn't need to chase attention, and doesn't need validation from anyone. This is the power of standing firm in who you are, no matter what chaos is happening around you. Let's reflect for a moment on what this all means. In a world where everyone is constantly reacting to something, where noise, conflict, and validation are everywhere, being someone who is emotionally controlled, detached from unnecessary drama, and comfortable in their own silence is incredibly rare. People like this stand out. Not because they try to stand out, but because their presence is magnetic. It's the quiet strength, the calm confidence, and the inner peace that draws others in. Now think about the last time you felt truly in control. When was the last time you faced a difficult situation, an emotional challenge, or a high-stress moment and chose how to respond? When you made a conscious decision to pause, to not react, to think before speaking, that moment of control is the space where your true power lies. It's where your strength is forged, where your character is built, and where the world begins to see you differently. That's when you start to feel truly alive, truly in charge of your life and your destiny. And it's important to remember that this power doesn't come overnight. Just like any skill, it takes practice. The more you practice emotional control, the more you practice staying calm, and the more you embrace silence, the stronger you'll become. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. You might want to react, to speak, to defend yourself, but the more you practice, the more you'll realize that silence is not empty, it's a force. And it's this force that will take you further than any impulsive reaction ever could. Now, let's tie it all together. Everything we've discussed, from emotional control to detachment to silence, works together to make you magnetic. When you combine these elements, you create a presence that's undeniable. You become someone who others respect, not because you're trying to prove something, but because you exude quiet confidence, inner strength, and self-mastery. You become someone who doesn't need to chase attention. You become someone who attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances, not by forcing things to happen, but by being aligned with your true self. And this, my friend, is the key to living a life that is not only successful, but also deeply fulfilling. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how this powerful inner strength translates into your relationships, your career, and your impact on the world around you. We'll dive deeper into how this magnetic presence will change the way you interact with others, how you create opportunities, and how you build your legacy. But for now, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned. Consider how you can apply the power of silence, emotional control, and detachment in your life, starting today. Remember this: the world doesn't need more loud voices. The world needs more strong, calm, and composed leaders. It needs people who can remain centered in chaos, who can respond thoughtfully, and who can inspire others to do the same. And when you cultivate these qualities, you won't just stand out. You'll create a presence that changes everything. So I challenge you, the next time you find yourself in a challenging or emotional situation, pause. Practice the silence. Practice emotional control. Practice detachment. When you do, you'll begin to notice the shift, not only in yourself, but in the world around you. People will respond to you differently, and you'll see your life begin to transform. And as we close today, I want to leave you with this final thought. Your best self doesn't need to be proven, it simply needs to be lived. So go out there and live it. The world is waiting for you to step into your power, and when you do, you'll see how magnetic, how strong, and how truly unstoppable you can be. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this has resonated with you, remember to subscribe for more content that will help you tap into your inner strength, master your emotions, and live a life of true power and purpose. Stay tuned for the next chapter of your transformation, because the best is yet to come. We've covered a lot of ground today: how silence, emotional control, non-reactivity, and detachment can transform not only how you live, but how you show up in the world. By learning to master your emotions and embrace the power of silence, you're not just creating a calm presence, you're building a force that others can't help but be drawn to. You're mastering the art of being present, being in control, and being the most magnetic version of yourself. And this journey is just the beginning. The more you practice these principles, the more you'll see how much power you really have over your life. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more calm, grounded individuals who know their worth and aren't afraid to show it by simply being who they truly are. You're learning to stop chasing approval and validation because you already understand that your worth comes from within. That's where true power comes from. But here's the key takeaway. You don't have to shout to be heard, you don't have to react to everything that happens around you, and you certainly don't need to prove your worth. When you stop chasing, you begin to attract everything that's meant for you. That's when life starts flowing with purpose, clarity, and control. That's when you begin to live with the kind of magnetic energy that turns heads without even trying. So, here's my challenge for you. Take everything we've discussed and start applying it today. In every conversation, in every decision, in every moment, practice the pause. Choose silence when the urge to react arises. Feel the power of emotional control and start letting go of everything that no longer serves you. As you do, I promise you will notice the change, both in how you feel and how others respond to you. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Join this community of people who are taking control of their lives and becoming the best versions of themselves. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because when we elevate ourselves, we elevate everyone around us. Keep living with strength, keep embracing silence, and as always, keep growing. The best version of yourself is waiting. Let's unlock it together.